guys, so today I'm going to try to show you how to make clear transparency ornaments using printable transparency paper and print and cut on your Cameo. So this is just an example of one that I've done. You can use photos, whatever design you want, but they're done with these little clear sheets on the inside of the bulb and feathers stuck behind it, so they're a little bit easier to see. So first we have to go to the computer because that's where most of the magic happens. Okay guys, so the first thing that you need to do in order to do these ornaments is you need to set up your studio for print and cut. So I'm going to change the size over here to my printer because you need to be able to do it with these sheets that go through your printer. And the registration marks. Now the registration marks are really important. I always just hit the type 1, but by default it's inset a lot. I change that around a little, and I do this for all of my print and cut, and I do tons of print and cut. So I come over here to the length, and I make them as long as possible, because the more there are, the better it'll have something to read. Make them as thick as possible, but I make the inset as small as possible so I have more room on the screen. So if you just click all these, sometimes it acts like it's not going to move over, but get it as big as you can for the length and the thickness, as small as you can for the inset. Then you could put whatever you want on here for the print and cut. You just have to pay attention to what's being printed and what's being cut. And this grid area I have found to be very important. Sometimes I get lucky, but 99% of the time, if I have something in this area, it won't work. It just won't work. So the first thing you need to do is start out with the template for your bulb. Now, I gave everyone a free template, which is just this, the image that you could trace. If you happen to get your hands on the SVG version of this, then you could skip a couple of steps. But since most of you just have this image, I'm going to start here. So I'm using a plastic bulb, so I want to trace the plastic template. So you come over here to your trace screen, select trace area, just trace the plastic one, and then do trace outer edge so you don't get the word plastic in there. Then you can move this to the side, delete it. Now you have your shape. The size is not going to be the size of your bulb. I mean, the image can import differently, or Facebook could change it around, so it's not the exact size. What I have found to work well is to make it 0.12 inches smaller than the size of your bulb. So I'm using 3.3 inch bulbs, so I'm going to come over here, go over to the transform panel, go to the size. We're going to lock the aspect ratio so it doesn't warp it, and make the width 3.18 inches. So now this is the size that I need. I can't promise you that it's going to be perfect because every bulb is a little bit different. So I highly recommend testing on paper first, just to see if it even remotely fits in there before you go wasting a bunch of the transparency sheets. Now I'm going to design the first ornament. I'm going to go with the photo because I think that's what most of you guys are using. So I did this one on my dog, and I'm going to pull them both in here so you guys could see. This was the original photo of my dog. This is the one that I actually printed. So you want to do some minor adjustments to the photo before you print it, because if you print it like this, it's going to be dull and faded. It's not going to print nice and vivid. You need to use an app on your phone. I use Photoshop, something, and increase the contrast and the saturation, tweak the colors, whatever you need to do to make it not look like this one. So the quality of your original photo is going to make a huge difference in it. So make sure you're using a good photo. Also, if you drag it into Studio and it's smaller than the size of your template and you have to drag the corners to make it bigger, it's not going to print great, because that means your photo is too small and you're actually going to make it more pixelated. So make sure the one that you bring in is at least the size of your bulb, or else you're just going to end up with a crappy photo too. So I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm going to copy this template because I'm going to use it over and over again. So you could just right click and hit duplicate, and I'm going to put it over here. Make sure it's in front so you can see what you're doing. Then start resizing the photo to get it how you want it to be inside the ornament. Now, you could do all kinds of pretty stylistic things with this. I've done some that are cut out in hearts, which I should show you because everybody asked me that. Random trick, if you hold down Alt on your keyboard, see this little plus sign on my mouse? It makes it so that you can copy it without having to hit duplicate. So if you wanted a heart, we're going to just lay the heart over however you want it, which obviously that doesn't work very well because I'm cutting off her nose. You just want to pay attention that you don't actually like crop outside of the image because then you're going to end up with something funny. Which, okay, this picture doesn't lend itself very well to doing a heart because if I get her centered right, there's these little gaps. But I'm just going to show you anyway. If you want to cut it out in a heart, select them both. Go over here to your modify screen and hit crop. Boop, heart. And you could stick it inside the ornament in whatever size you want. And you could do that with any shape if you've got circles or squares or whatever. I use that a lot for cropping images down just in here if I'm going to lay them into a template with words and stuff around it. But just photo, same concept. Put the template shape over the picture, how you want it. Select them both, hit crop on the modify screen. That's how you get your photo. So then you come over here and you line it up. I usually make it go to the back. So I use my keyboard because I know all the little shortcuts. But if you go send it back, it'll put it behind. And then you want to get close and make sure that it's lined up good. And actually, I like to make it just a little bit bigger so that it, if it cuts a little bit off, that it's still all on the transparency. I just use the centering tool here to center it onto the template, but you can't use the centering vertical because the little neck up here messes with it. And don't worry about this little gap up in the neck. Nobody's going to notice that. It's up in the neck of the ornament. It can have the picture there. It can have part of the picture. It could be empty. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to really see that. It doesn't affect it at all. So this is how I want it. So I would group those so that I could copy and paste 6 of them on the sheet or whatever we're going to do. But I'm going to be doing another one so I could show you some of the other options. So I just copied another one over. Now I'm going to group this. And we're just going to sit it over here on the screen somewhere. Notice it's not in the grid area. Let me get rid of that. So if you wanted to do something like a little bit more than just a photo on here, you could, like let's say, here, I'm going to use this as another example. Let's say you wanted to put like a little box that had her name. This was my golden retriever Shiloh. So you could take a box and go right over the front. And let's make it black. Oh, maybe I should select it. Make it black. Get rid of the outline because you don't want to see that. Zoom in here so you guys can see it way better. Make this a little smaller. And actually, I've been kind of having fun with this lately. So let's give it a white border. Makes it look pretty. Okay, I changed my mind. Let's do an oval. I think that's going to work better for the circle. So, oval. Here, we're going to do the same white line. Thicken it. grab both of them, line them up. Now, if you wanted to, you could print it just like this. These black bars going off the side, they don't matter because they're going to get cut off when the machine actually cuts it. If you're having a hard time with space on there, I mean, I can obviously make this smaller. But if you do come up with something that you want to cut, here, I'm going to copy that over so I can mess with this here. You can do the same crop effect here. So if you've got your shape, center it so it's cut exactly where you want it. Come over here to the modify screen and hit crop again. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Ungroup this first. You only need to crop this one. Whoa. See, look, I'm bumping things. Okay, select those two. I did not select the oval because the oval doesn't actually need to be cropped. I'm just cropping the bar. Select two of them, hit crop, and then boop, it makes your little thing for you. So then you could group it, bring it to the front, and then line it up over it. So I usually go down just a little bit again so you could see these, the red line. Yeah, let me pull this in the front. So you can see exactly where it's going to cut that off. So we're going to come, there we go, center it. Now it's lined up good. So if you want to come over here and add some text and say Shiloh, you make it white or whatever. You can make it whatever, but I would do white in this instance. Just remember that anything white is not going to print. You're basically choosing clear. And this font is obviously not what I would choose because why would I choose this font when you've got so many cool fonts? But I'm just showing you this for an example. Okay, the other type of layout that people like to do is have like a picture to the left and some text to the right, which you could spend hours in here playing around with it and putting in text and getting it lined up exactly how you want it and crop the image. If you happen to have a template that already has room for one, like this one, if I can find it. Oop, what color? I like to use the pink because they're transparent. Okay, so if you got one of these, first thing I do, I already know that the template is 3.18 inches wide, so I'm going to just lock the aspect ratio, go over here to the width, and go 3.18. That's going to, well, okay, it's not going to size it perfectly, but it's going to get me close. So we do the same concept. You just decide where you want it inside, and then let's grab a photo. Okay, well, we're going to do another animal because apparently that's what I've got. Shiloh, you win. Okay, so same concept, but I'm just going to show you how to kind of put it together. We're going to take a square, decide how big we want that. I do not like that that's black because I can't see what in the heck I'm doing. So line it up till you get what you want for the picture. Select them both. Come over here to the... Okay, so my little program that records my screen cut me off. Apparently I hit my time limit. So hopefully we didn't lose anything too vital there, but I'm just going to pick up where we left off. So I'm not actually going to print these because I don't want to waste one of my sheets on something that I don't need. And I already have these all printed. So I'm just going to finish showing you though. Once you get the page filled, which you could fit 6 on the page, and I'll show you that when I get to the ones I'm actually going to print. But I just want to show you this. So when you go over to the send screen, it's really important that the only cut lines showing up are of the template line in there. So see this? This is bad news bears. You don't want that getting sent. So I'm going to ungroup it. So I try to be organized, and before I do the final grouping, I come in here and do this, but you know, I'm kind of all over the place here trying to show you as much as I can, as fast as I can. But select what's showing up and hit no cut over here. There, now we're good. That's what it should look like. So you can group it again if you want. The cut line needs to be the the material needs to be set for your material. So I've gone through and I made a custom material type, and that's what you'll need to do. So I'll just do it again to show you. So you hit add new material type, and what I've been doing is 3, 1, 33, and 1 for the graphic sheets. But I started using these fixin sheets, which I did a whole video showing you the differences. I don't know if it's just my blade is more dull because I've done more of these, but it's taking 2 passes now with these fixin sheets. So you might need to tweak it a little bit because unfortunately these sheets do dull your blade fast, but I'll show you my little hack for getting past that. But you would just hit save, and then I normally would come in here. Oop, I hit add. That's what I want to do. Rename, video, whatever. You'd name it transparency sheets, but I'm just doing that to show you. Once you have it saved, then you can just choose it. So I have fixin sheets in here twice because I'm super organized. 3, 1, 33, and 2. If you're using the graphic sheets and your blade's nice and sharp, you should only have to do 1. I'm not actually going to cut these. So we're going to go back in here. I'm going to cut these because I need these for orders. So this is how I set it up. It's the same exact document I just showed you how to set up with the registration marks and everything. You could fit 6 on the sheet. None of it is in the grid area. Come over here. Make sure your cut lines are good. You got to make sure all of this stuff is good before you hit print, because if you move anything after printing but before cutting, you've wrecked it. So as soon as you're sure that it's how it should be, come over here, you go to File, go to Print, and so this is my printer. They're all going to be set up a little bit different here, but you want to choose photo paper because that's going to be like the highest quality, most ink putting down. Print quality, best, and then I leave everything else alone. So we hit OK. I'm just going to print 1, and then I'm going to load in one of my sheets and print it, and I will show you what to do from there. Okay, so for your printer, the sheets, it's super important to make sure you're printing on the right side of the sheet. If you're using the graphic sheets, it's a little bit of a guessing game. It's supposed to be the less glossy side. Like I said, I switched to these fixins sheet. They come in a bag that has it nice and labeled print side. So if you're careful about not messing it up, oop, got a bunch of paper here. I just pull the paper out because I have had it accidentally pull a sheet of paper with the sheet and then I print on paper. That doesn't do any good. So take your paper out, and depending on your printer, most of them are going to operate the same way where it feeds in and prints on the other side. So you need to put it down print side down, so when it goes through and rolls around, it's coming up on the right side. So print side down. Make sure you don't have greasy fingers because that can make it so the ink doesn't stick. I haven't had that problem with these fixin sheets, but the graphics, that was the big deal. Do not clean the sheets with alcohol swabs. It'll take the finish right off, and that's bad news. Just tell it you loaded the paper, come back over here and hit print. Now, if you're using the fixins, it'll print and be perfectly dry. If you're using the graphics, you have to give it a few minutes. So I'm gonna let this print and I'll show you what to do from there once it comes out. Okay, I got my transparency sheet all printed out, and since I'm using this brand where it dries good, I don't have to worry about waiting. If you're using the graphics brand, you gotta wait and make sure that it's not gonna smudge before you do this. So I just put paper behind it so you could see, but you got the registration marks in here. So here is the part where all the tricks come in. The registration marks have to be read in order for it to cut right, obviously. So on my mat, I first started out putting paper on the back and taping it on, and that worked okay for the graphic sheets. These fixin sheets, they didn't like that. They're not quite as clear, so you'd think that'd be easier, but Somebody had said something about putting little pieces of white sticker sheets on the back, but I was printing enough of these that I was getting really sick of messing around with sticking them on the back every time. So I, with my paper taped to the back so I could see exactly where it was going to sit, I put sticker sheets on the front of my mat. And I have a few mats, and this one, as you could see, I've kind of destroyed it with ornament inserts, but that's okay. This has just kind of been my dedicated mat. But the sticker sheets on the front of the mat has worked good for me. So you want to line it up as straight as you can so you're not making it work any harder. So get it lined on there good. Make sure it sticks on good. A bright lamp has been key. So this lamp works really well. I extend the arm so it's right over the cutting blade area. And make sure this is on. I still have the document on my screen. So I'm going to load it in here. Make sure it's in there nice and straight. Now, I use the premium blades. Mine's a Cameo too, so I don't have the auto blade. I just have the ratchet blades, but I use the premium blades. Do not use the same blade for these transparency sheets as you will for vinyl, because it destroys the blades. I can make the blades still work, but they'll never be the same for vinyl, and you'll end up having to mess with all your settings. So I learned that the hard way. So I have Sharpie on the top. So this was my vinyl blade. So we're going to need it on a 3, so I'm just pulling up my send screen. So I'm gonna put it on a 3. Now, random little life hack here, if it's still not cutting, grab I thought I brought it out here, a chunk of tin foil. So I just have a sheet that I folded like 100 times, so not really, I folded it a lot so it's thick so you don't cut yourself. But open up the blade all the way to a 10 and swipe it across the tin foil a few times. I don't know why that works, but it works. So if your blade is starting to get dull, it just won't cut, try that first. I have to do that to my blade like every 4th sheet that I cut, because it just starts to get dull, or maybe stuff just gets built up on it. I'm not sure what the deal is, but swipe it across some tin foil, and that seems to work. So I'm gonna put it on a 3. Make sure it's all the way down. Lock it in. Have the bright light. Line it up as good as you can. Put white behind the registration marks. And then hit send, and hopefully it works. And like I said before, test on paper first so you don't waste the sheets. I'm actually kind of hoping that this doesn't work so that you guys could see some of the troubleshooting, because this is where everybody has the issues. But I'm gonna hit go, and let's see what happens. Okay, my inserts just finished cutting. So how I get them off the mat so you don't like tweak them any more than you have to is I bend my mat and peel them this way. This actually works really well for paper if anybody is doing tags or something. Rip that off, and then, sorry, I'm right-handed, I gotta do it this way. Just peel them each off. Okay, so once you have the insert cut, see, check it out, printed good, cut good. You take a bulb, and I'm using these 3 1/3 inch plastic bulbs from Michaels. The product information says they're 3 1/2 inch, which is just silly because they're measuring from the bottom to the top. They're including the neck, and that doesn't matter. What we need to know is how wide it is. So a little trick, if you put like 2 books or boxes next to it, you can measure the distance between those 2 books or boxes. Then it's just easier to get the exact dimensions of it. But you just roll them up, and I roll it towards the print side just so it's less likely to get scratched going through the neck. and then you tuck it in. And I take some tweezers and just kind of reposition it a little bit to get it nice and straight in there. I don't know if you could see that. It shouldn't be curling up or anything at all. It should go in there nice and straight. And then I start putting in feathers. I use these, just the cheap white feathers from the craft section at Walmart. I've tried the Hobby Lobby ones and I actually like these Walmart ones better. And I'm kind of picky about them. So I have a whole bowl. These are my reject pieces that I just kind of use as filler towards the back, but I like the little feathers to be right behind the picture. These big thick stems make the photo kind of distracting and it doesn't look as nice. So I take the feather and I cut it down about halfway, and then I put the other half just in my little bowl. And I just do that over and over again. And then I tuck the feathers behind the insert. You want it to look nice from the side too. You don't want just like a super thin layer, which if you look at this from the side, you could still see through that part, which will happen. I use this paintbrush just because it was laying around. Sometimes you can kind of reposition them a little bit, but this is where these little cut off ends come in. I try to find one that doesn't look too awful. And I tuck in some of those little ends on the back because they have like the little wispy feathers on them. So you can kind of use your little paintbrush, move them around, or pencil or whatever, but I was worried I was going to scratch the inside of the bulb, and the paintbrush worked well. You just need to get enough feathers behind it that you could make the picture easier to see. And it looks nice and fluffy. And then you just put the cap back on. I try to put the cap on where the little metal pieces are behind the insert, just so it's preferably not as visible. If I'm lucky, I can get it tucked right into the feathers so you don't really see it as well. But you know, you're gonna see that little metal piece. And then I make a pretty bow and I hot glue it to the lid right in front of this little circle. If you're gonna put one of these little hooks on, put the hook on first because it gets a little bit tricky with the bow there. This one, my hook got in the hot glue, which, you know, is fine, but preferably don't glue your hook in there and you're good to go. I have a bow tutorial. If you haven't seen it yet, just let me know and I can get it for you. But that's it. If anybody has any questions or you troubleshoot a different issue, let me know. But I've gotten them where they pretty much cut perfect every single time, and it's that lamp and the sticker sheets on the mat. So if that doesn't work, there might be something else going on. But let me know. Thank you.